All the good girls go to heaven, but the bad girls, they get backstage.
All the good girls you take out for dinner, but all the bad girls you take out for liquor. All the good girls, they don't pull the trigger.
So, today's tips are going to be formatting dialogue and dialogue tags. First off, it is really important for me to point out that this information is based on American English and not so much for anywhere else on the planet. Yeah, we're strange. Also, I have noticed that a lot of people don't actually follow these rules, and partly because of style choices, so to speak. But I am a firm believer in know the rules first before you break them. So I figured I would bring this information to you, and then you do you, boo-boo. So let's start with the basics. All spoken words are enclosed with double quotation marks. Let her go. Period at the end, quotation marks, is a statement. Notice that the punctuation is inside of the quotation marks. The punctuation is enclosed inside of the quotation marks. I tell you, every time I see people put that darn period on the outside of quotation marks, I want to scream. You want to get into my peeves? That's one of them. And also notice I didn't say pet peeve. That's another video. If you need a dialogue tag, like says or said, depending on your tense, or asked or asks, don't come from me. I cannot say that word. Those are placed on the outside of the quotation marks, which will be separated by a comma. The comma, being the punctuation in this situation, go inside the quotation marks because why, class? Punctuation. Very good. Gold star for you. Let her go, she says. Got it? We're good? Moving along. Now here's where a lot of folk get confused. So let me help you out with that. Actions that happen before or after the dialogue are their own separate sentence. Aaliyah screams, "Let her go," she says. On a side note, don't come for me or how corny these sentences are too. They're just used for, the purposes of the video. Nothing more. Now, there is a difference if Aaliyah was screaming the words, "Let her go," as opposed to she screamed and then she said, "Let her go." Okay? So let me make that clear. So if she screamed the words, "Let her go," that would be one sentence where we get to use our trusty comma instead of the period. And it's written as Aaliyah screams, "Let her go." Again, I want you to notice that the punctuation stays inside of the quotation marks. Inside, people. It's inside. Okay, thank you. And no matter how it's said or what punctuation is used, it is inside. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go, she says. Punctuation inside the quotation marks. Have I emphasized that enough? I think I have. I think you get it. You're all smart cookies. And for an additional note, if you use ellipsis points, and I tend to be a very ellipsis point heavy chick, working on it, do not add an additional comma. I've seen people do that too. Don't do that. I don't care if that's even your style. I am telling you personally not to do that anymore. Here's another really big one that people get confused with. And I understand why it can be confusing. I still screw it up when I'm working my first drafts. Go back and fix it when I catch it. But here we go. If the action interrupts the dialogue, which is fragmenting the sentence. Then write the second part of the sentence, still in lowercase, just as if it had never been, fragmented in the first place. So for example, you have, please let me try. The second example, please, he says, voice cracking, let me try. Do you see where I'm saying with that? So think of the sentence as it never being chopped up to begin with. But it was a whole sentence that you fragmented because you put the action in the middle of it. Then treat it as if you didn't put that action in and just keep everything lowercase. Okay? Now, let's say you need to write a direct quote within your dialogue. Always good times. I swear I do everything I can to get around these particular sentences, but okay, they are necessary sometimes. This is where your single quotation marks will come in. For example, had mistress said, "You're a bad influence," then dismissed me like I was garbage. The part where you're quoting what the headmistress said goes into the single quotation mark. And again, pointing out that this is American English, because the complete opposite is for other places. Like, really, America has to be different with everything for some reason. I don't know. Makes it all confusing depending on who you're reading. But again, I digress. A more direct approach would be to simply say, had Mistress Kyriakis said that I'm a bad influence and then just dismissed me like I was garbage. That's usually how I do it. Because doing the quotes and then the quotes inside the quotes, rarely do I do that. So there's two ways of handling that. They both work. It's your choice. Now, if your character performs an action that is directly connected to your dialogue, keep it in the same paragraph. This is another thing that I would screw up on a lot while I'm doing my draft. I'm so quick to hit return every time I type a sentence anyway. I always have to go back and fix that. Going back through my manuscript, this was probably the thing I edited the most, the thing I had to fix the most. The reason you want to be really careful with this is you don't want your reader to not know who's speaking at the time. Especially if you have several characters in a conversation. You don't want to make them have to go back and figure out, wait, who's talking? Okay? And in the same vein, you always start a new paragraph when someone else speaks. Never have two characters speaking in the same paragraph. Boy, have I seen that. Like, really? What were you thinking? Don't do that. That is really, really wrong. That doesn't even get to play in the style. If you do that, that is really, really wrong. Okay? Thank you. For instance, I'm going to read this. Baron leans in and kisses her lips. I love you, sissy. He claps her face in his hands and kisses her again. I love you too, she says, trying not to start crying again. Boy, that's cheesy. Oh my friggin' God. Yeah. Again, don't come for me for my examples. Here's one of those rules I hate so much. I think it looks so stupid. It's so dumb. I don't know who decided this rule, but it is a rule and you should know it. If your character talks so damn long that it does need to start a new paragraph, put opening quotations at the beginning of each of those paragraphs, no matter how many there are, but do not put closing ones at the end of those paragraphs. You do not put the closing one until the character has completely stopped talking and something else is going on or another character starts to speak. So, as ridiculous as that looks, that's what you have to do. Yeah. But that's the rule. I wrote an example that's up on the screen that you can read. Pause to do so if you need to. Other than that, we're going to keep moving. And finally, the demon that is interior dialogue. I couldn't even find a concrete true, this is the rule of rules for this, because it has been done in so many different ways that I'm not sure that people really remember the original rule. Of course, now that I said that, I'll either discover it or someone will point it out to me, which both are fine, but damn. Since the choices are so many, the only rule here, in my humble opinion, is to be consistent. So whatever you do choose to use, keep using that. So a couple of rules, or I like to call anti-rules, that do apply. Do not use quotation marks. Don't do that. Inner dialogue doesn't require it. And try to remember that you don't need to capitalize, after the thought. Treat it as just part of the sentence because, well, it is part of the sentence. It's just the part that isn't said out loud. It's inner dialogue. And don't let the punctuation that it'll need throw you off. It looks weird. It does, but it just is what it is. I mean, seriously, what can we do? Other than just not have inner dialogue. So here's what it should look like if you use italics as your go-to for inner dialogue, which I notice a lot of people do. It's what I do. It's what I plan to always do. Makes the best sense to me. And when I see it and it's all its weirdness, it doesn't throw me as far as the rest of the stuff that's in the book. Inner dialogue just looks weird to me in general. So this is the least offensive to my eyesight. What little I do have of that. Well, I hope these tips helped you so that you at least know what to do when you decide that you're not going to do it that way. I don't care. That's up to you. Until next time, you know what to do.
It's never too late to get down and party. Switching from good to bad, cause you're not a feel it inside, oh inside your body. Let it come out with shots of Bacardi. Just let your body go. We'll take it nice and slow.